everybody. Welcome to Friday with Fran. I am one host, Shelley Kino, and the other host is Fran. She is the reason that we call it Friday with Fran, because this is my opportunity to just sit and visit with Fran and catch up on things related to special education. Both Fran and I have lots of experience in the arena of special education. Fran herself is the mom of two adult people who I wanted to call them children, but I mean, I know they're your children, but they're not children anymore. And they have both gone through school with IEPs, and she's gone through the whole special education world.
She's still in school.
Well, this is true. She is. And myself, I am a former special education teacher. I am now a master IEP coach, educational advocate focusing in special education. I still do some subbing, keep up on all the wonderful things. Just signed up a few hours ago to go to the big special education conference in January down in Orlando, Florida. So I'm quite excited.
Ulterior motives there, maybe.
Just maybe a little bit. I went to Milwaukee. I went to Wisconsin when it was hot down here. It was cooler up there. That's where I was last week. And, then in January when it's cold here, I'm going to go to Florida where it's warm, hopefully. That doesn't always happen, that it's warm when it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about belonging and how that doesn't always happen, but what a great feeling it is when it does happen. But before we get to that, make sure if you are watching that you, let me get my fun toy up, that you give it a thumbs up or, and that you like it or you subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're with us live, let us know, #live in the comments, and please just interact with us. The sessions, the Friday with Fran goes so much better when our audience is interacting with us. So now that you've listened to me speak for over 2 minutes, Fran, how are you doing? What's up?
Life is happening. You never know what you're going to get. You just kind of, today is one of those, I just keep getting back up and going with the flow.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, sometimes we want those around us to fit into a certain mold, because sometimes you need them to fit in that mold because you have things that are time essential or crucial, and so you try to get them to fit that mold, and there are times they're just never going to fit that mold. So that's one of those days we're having no one's fitting in any mold that I need them to fit in. So
yeah, those are tougher days, most definitely.
So, but it's it's good, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about your adventures and what it means, how you felt to belong.
Yeah, there will probably be tears because it is such an incredible and overwhelming feeling to, hi Alex, thanks for joining us today, to be in a place where there was no judgment, all encouragement, and just love for everybody. And I know that sounds a little corny, and sounds a little hippie-ish, the whole make love, not peace. I mean, make love, not war thing. So this group that I'm a part of, the Master IEP Coaches, and that's why I'm wearing the hat today, it was started several years ago by a woman who was also a special education teacher, also has a sibling who has special needs, and her sibling is now in his 40s. And so he got into the school systems when the law was just coming about. And, she still saw a lot of things that her parents struggled with in trying to help out her brother. And then, she was like, I'm going to go be a special education teacher and I'm going to make things better for families. And then she was like, I can't reach everybody as, that needs to be reached if I'm just in this classroom. And so then she started this where she worked privately for clients. And then, I don't know, I think maybe eight-ish years ago, she started, maybe longer than that, but she started working for other people and making herself known. And then about years ago, she started this Master IEP Coach mentorship. And it's the people that have been involved with this mentorship are people from all over the country. They're moms and dads, they're teachers, they're administrators, they're therapists. But every person who takes or goes through the mentorship has the same goal in mind, and that is to make the world a better place for people who have an IEP. And at this workshop, this conference, we even talked about what to do beyond the IEP. And so we talked about my book and how, that can change people's perspectives. And we talked about transition programs, which is what you were saying, that your daughter is involved in right now. And then what's going to happen for her when she's out of school. And so most of us have our own business, doing what I do and doing similar things to that. And so we're our only employees. And so when we get together, and this was the third one, and each year more people have come because each year more people are going through the mentorship. It's I'm not really sure that I can describe it. Because most of us, even before the pandemic started, the training is online. So we don't get to meet each other in person and go through the class together. But the very first one was, like I said, the third one. And the very first one, it was like, I walked in and literally for the first time in my adult life, I finally felt like I was with my people. They all understood me. They had, so many of them had the same complaints about things that I had. They had a lot of very similar experiences to mine, and a lot of the same frustrations and a lot of the same joys and excitement and desires that I had. And then that group of people, we all stayed connected through Facebook. And then last year was the second year, and there was the pandemic. And so a few of us got together in person, but a lot of those people from the year before were all virtual. And then but it was the same when we got together with the ones last year. And then some of us did another outside of the conference experience. We went to an escape room. I'd never been to one of those, but everybody that could and wanted to go was invited. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to talk to these three people and we're just going to invite these three, because these are the three I've bonded with the most during the day. No, it was put out there. It was put out in a group chat. We're going to the escape room. Who wants to go? And that is such a different feeling than what I had when I worked in the school systems. I can remember one of my first years of teaching, and I was talking to a gen ed teacher. And I mean, we were talking about students, how we can work with them and whatever. And it was I don't know what day it was, Wednesday or a Thursday. Another gen ed teacher came into the room, spoke not to me, but to the other gen ed teacher, and said, hey, we're going out after work on Friday. Do you want to come? Didn't extend the invitation to me. I was there was no way I couldn't hear what she said. And even at workshops, when we would go to workshops where all the teachers, like a teacher institute day, when we would go to those things, there would be, maybe 100 workshops to choose from. And all but this many would be for general education teachers. And this was all that those of us who were in special education got to choose. I don't know if it's like, I feel like you can't really see how small that is, but, and there's, you know, there was this old saying, and I have red hair, so, you know, I'm going to say this, but, special education is like the redheaded stepchild. You know, there was a saying a long time about, you know, that something was bad about having a redheaded stepchild. And I don't know why that came to be or whatever, but it was looked down upon. And that's how special education teaching, in my experience. And unfortunately, I have found that it's not just my experience. There's a group on Facebook called Special Education Teachers, and there's something, I don't even know, like 46,000 teachers from across the country are part of this group. And so many of them say the same things, that their colleagues don't reach out to them. They're not invited to things. They're not included. You know, we're like the last ones picked for the kickball team when you go through school, you know, like, right. Oh, okay, well, you're the only one left. So I guess you'll have to be in my group for this, or, you know, you're going to have to be on my team. And having had a lifetime, because as a redhead and as a person with glasses and freckles and extremely thin growing up, I was often excluded. And so it's been my whole life of being the last one chosen. And when I went to this conference, everybody was like, Shelley, and they'd hug, and, you know, and they would get so excited, and we'd all get so excited. And then, like, we had a big group app that we were using to keep in contact, to know, hey, you know, this group is going to meet here, or, you know, there's a bunch of us here if you want to come here, or we're going to do this or whatever. And it's been a week since we were together, and the app is still being used because we're all saying how much we miss each other.
Yeah.
And to have that 100% total acceptance for exactly who I am by strangers it's the most beautiful feeling. And I mean, I don't even have that 100. And the other thing that's really weird is I can be silly and like go out of my comfort zone, and I know that they're still going to support me. For example, on the Saturday night, the conference was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Saturday is recording day, Sunday is church day. And so on the recording day, Saturday, once the conference was over for the day, a group said, hey, we're going to go to this karaoke place. Anybody who wants to come is invited. So Kevin and I went, and there were, by the time Kevin and I got there were already quite a few people there, and we walked in, and immediately, you know, the hands are going up, that the people that were there were waving us over. So we knew where they were. So to me, that was another, like, they're not just welcoming me, but they're welcoming Kevin too. You know, they're excited to see both of us. And so then we get over there, and there was, you know, hey, are you going to sing? Are you going to sing? And all this kind of stuff. And a couple of them did. And then they kept like, come on, you know, you need to sing. What are you going to sing? And so I finally said, all right, I'll go up with the group and I'll do this, you know. So I picked a song. Hang on. I don't know how, but I got a weird splinter in my finger all of a sudden. And so I went up and I signed us up for this song, and I thought, you know, okay, in my experiences in the past, people have told me they're going to participate with things like that. But then I honestly was nervous. Like, as it got closer to our group song, I was getting really nervous because I thought, they're not going to walk up there with me. You know, the song is going to come up that it's our turn, and I'm going to end up there by myself. No. Every person that was a master IEP coach came up on stage with me.
Awesome.
And I was like, I couldn't catch my breath because I was so overwhelmed by all of these people supporting me and getting outside of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And then I convinced Kevin to go up and do karaoke, he and I. And a bunch of the people were, because the night was getting on, and, you know, because the place was packed, and, you know, there would be lots of wait time in between your song and the next time you got up to sing. And so some of them had heard, they were getting ready to leave, but they heard that Kevin and my song was coming up, like in a couple more songs, and they waited before they left because they wanted to be there. And then they came out and they videoed it, and they were dancing, and, you know, I mean, they were just like, we had our own little posse of people who were cheering for us. And I can't explain the incredible feeling that washed over me. And then when I had given somebody my phone to record it, and when she was recording it, she was like, "Go, Shelley!" I mean, she was woohooing, and I mean, so just that other amount of support was absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I want everybody to have that feeling.
Yeah.
And I want everybody that has avoided somebody with special needs because of whatever the reason, I want you to stop avoiding them. I want you to reach out and be supportive and inclusive, because what I feel right now and what I felt last weekend, the entire weekend, is going to carry me through those times when I don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm even expressing how amazing this is.
You are.
Well, I hope so. Marsha's one of the other IEP coaches.
Hi, Marsha. Oh, hi, Michael.
Hi, Michael. So yeah, Marsha says that was the feeling I had when I greeted her with the world's biggest hug, and I didn't even know her. We had never met until we had not met in person. Marsha was on #NoLimits, and, you know, again, we've done some of the workshops and stuff together, but that's always been online. And just, Marsha, I'm so glad that you jumped on and said that, because yes, Michael, we are glad you're back.
We've missed you, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know, Marsha, maybe you can do better at it. I feel like I'm not saying it, but I mean, just that it's just such a warm.
Everybody wants to be accepted just for who they are. And
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, it is awesome that you got it, that you truly got to experience it. But you're right. The population that has different needs, unique needs, they don't. But I will tell you, they have opportunity. There are opportunities that sometimes typically developing people, they see it and they want it, because like Special Olympics,
Yeah,
when you see them cheering each other on, I mean, my daughter competes in the pentathlon for track and field for athletics, which is this many events.
mm-hmm.
And they razz each other. And the neat thing with Special Olympics is they compete by their skill level.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not going to compete against somebody that can do it way, way, way better, or that someone that their needs make them not be able to do it as well. She's going to compete with someone relatively equal within a range. And so with all of the neat thing is like, even the pentathletes, they go around together through the entire time up at summer games, because so they're kind of like their own little posse, kind of like what you had. So they razz each other on, but they cheer each other on as well. and they're supporting each other, and they're there. Even if they get beat, they're there because they want the best for each other. And
Yeah.
so they get that there, but that's only because it's their own little community. They're
Right.
they're similar. Why can they not get that in the real world?
Yeah. Well,
Why
and
can even, why were you as a special ed teacher not accepted as
yeah.
the gen ed teachers? Why do they see it differently?
Yeah. Yeah. And what Michael says, there's nothing better than the overwhelming feeling of love. And what you just said about their own little community, I think that's how we feel with the master IEP coaches. And like I said, Marsha is another one. And she says, you automatically felt like you belong. There was no competition, even though we are all doing similar things. We accepted and included each other for who we are and where we are.
Mhm.
I mean, there were some coaches there, like myself, who have been there from the beginning. And
Mhm.
then there were other coaches who have just gone through the mentorship and are just starting their businesses, or just not even if they're doing it as a business, if they're just doing it to help themselves be better people, or, there were teachers there, there were parents there. So if they're there to just help their children get what they're supposed to
Mhm.
have in their IEPs, or if they're teachers and they're, wanting to write them better and understand it better and help the families out. Um, and then there were therapists, and so it's no matter where you were on your journey or where you are on the journey. um, it is. And I think everyone needs to try to find, and I don't know how to do it, but I mean, I just sort of came into it I know it was an accident, but I know God divined my steps. But um, you know, like Special Olympics, like this Master IEP Coach group and they're not all women. We do have a few guys, but most of us are women.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, and it's just like I said, we could just, I feel like I can be myself, 100% myself. I don't feel like I have to be on or entertaining or, I mean,
Right.
how can we help everybody find a group like that? Because it's just
Mhm.
such an awesome feeling. And you feel like when you're with those people, or at least I did, that like I can do anything. If I have these people lifting me up continually, I can do anything. And
Yeah. And can you imagine the feeling that you're having if the students that have IEPs, if they had that same support, and that they knew that they would feel they could do anything, then they wouldn't have that holding them back, along with their different needs. They wouldn't
right.
be having to overcome their different needs. Plus, I saw something the other day, probably it was on Facebook, about a student will do so much better if they know the teacher believes in them. I kind of paraphrased. I can't remember it
Yeah.
all, but you know that one
Yeah.
I'm talking about what
Yeah.
I'm speaking.
Yeah. And I don't know
So,
the exact wording of it either, but if a child knows that you care,
mhm.
they may not remember what you teach them, but they'll remember that you cared.
And I can take it into even coaching. I know that I coach kind of differently than a lot of people. I coach with, I want them to know fundamentals, and I will play a player that practices and clearly tries that than over a better skilled player with a bad attitude.
Yeah.
Um,
That would be my coaching as well.
so sometimes I don't get asked back to coach because I don't always coach to win, because I'm coaching for life. I'm coaching them for life, to prepare them for life. And part of that is that we support each other. If
Yeah.
you're on the bench, you're cheering for those on the court. And if you're on the court and your teammate threw the ball out, you're not going to scream at them bloody murder that they threw the ball away. We all We're not perfect. No one is perfect. You're going to say,
Right.
okay, let's go. We got to get going, encourage them, because at that moment, they don't need that. They know they messed up.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, and as you're talking, I don't know, have I told you what I'm doing? Yes, I have told you because I've asked you to speak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as soon as I'm having, it's been on my heart for a really long time, to have a girls' lock-in at a local youth center, because I want these girls to know they belong.
Yeah.
I want them to know that they don't, who they are is okay, and
Right.
that people love them just as they are, that they don't have to be what the world says just to be accepted and loved. So I'm super, super excited about it, because as you were talking, I'm like, I want them to come away with that same experience that you had. I want them to know that that was the girls that go through this lock, and that's their posse, that following it, that they can reach out to them in times of trouble, that they have a support system, that the adults that participate. I'm asking different women from the community to come and share how they get through life.
Yeah.
And and like grandmas and self-employed, and people that own corporate businesses, and someone that's living through an illness, so that you can see, no matter what you're going through in life, these women are going to be able to speak into the girls' lives. That's my goal, so that they can have a sense of belonging. So I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you had this opportunity. I think in life, I don't know, maybe I'm just unique. I never felt out. I just did my own thing.
Yeah.
And I, like in high school, I was in marching band, and I was drum major. So, I had the music, and um, I was involved in my youth group really a lot. So I was there, and I was in drama, and I was in varsity sports through high school. So I had all the sports teams,
Mm-hmm.
and I just did my own thing. I didn't realize that there were people that were on the outside, because I just thought you could do, and you just got accepted wherever you went. So I was blessed in that aspect.
Yeah.
But when I look back now, I realized that people were on the outside a lot of times. Or I just brought them along with me, and I could never understand why they didn't want to come if I brought a brand friend to a sports type thing. And I'm like, come on, just come in, come sit here. And I'll go sit over there. No, no, come with me.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. And then I'm like, oh, okay. And I go on about my day, but I never really realized they weren't comfortable because they didn't belong.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe I was just naive then and just did my own thing. But I expected people to accept whoever was with me.
Right. And I think in high school and in school settings, there's a couple things that came to mind when you were talking is, you don't always realize that, because, you are at an age where your world is all that there is. You don't often look outside of what's happening. And I don't, that's not totally bad. And the thing is, as parents, we need to do better to help our children see that they aren't the center of the world, and that
Mm-hmm.
they do need to be looking out for everybody, because we don't want people to feel alone. The other thing that I was thinking about regarding you is you were a military brat, meaning you moved bases a few times at least in your life, right?
I was actually kind of unique. I went all of grade school in the town in which I live now, and I went junior high and high school all on the same base.
Okay.
But I experienced everyone else moving in and out.
Okay. Because I think that while it's difficult for some kids, I think that helps build resilience to, like, well, it's okay that I don't know you, or you don't know me, or you don't like me, because I'm going to move, in a few years. and I'm going to make new friends. Again, I realize that, that isn't the case. For some kids, it's horrible to move, that because they do get settled and comfortable and finally starting to go with the flow, and then, oh, we got to go again. And that is a more difficult thing for them. But most of the people that I knew when Kevin and I were when Kevin was in the military and we were the youth group leaders, is, I would say, a large portion of the kids that we worked with, they had a very different outlook than the people that I grew up with. And even myself, to be perfectly honest, because they had been different places. They hadn't just had their whole world literally be one town or one county. And so they were able to form relationships a little bit easier, and be able to adjust to a lot of different situations easier. I don't say that meaning that they all had it easy. But I do think it was easier for some of them. And so I was thinking maybe that was your case too, but sounds like you only moved once. So 8 times.
Well, when I was younger, we moved a lot, but I'll let you do that. I'm going to cross my finger because I want to.
Okay, so I just wanted to read Marcia's comment. The special education teachers sometimes focus only on getting them to the goal, but these kids need connections more than anything else. They need to know we love them, support them, and accept for where they are, and that we are dedicated to helping them. And I hope, first of all, I 100% agree with that, Marcia. And second, I hope that I did that with my students. And I think I did, just based on the fact that most of my students, if I see them, even if they just came to my room for 20 minutes a day, will still, hey, Mrs. Keno, how you doing? Or, I'll still recognize them. Now, some of them have changed so much since I had them in primary, and now they're, graduating high school. And I look at some of the pictures in the paper and I'm like, that's so-and-so? Wow, I would not have known that.
Yeah.
But I haven't changed much, for better or worse. So, they can still recognize me. But yeah, that connection, that building relationships, it's just key.
And my kids, I was blessed that both of my kids have had wonderful teachers that poured into them, that went above and beyond. And not just the teachers, but my son always had, he needed an individual aid with him at all times as well. And we were blessed.
That's
We're
awesome.
still in touch with them, and he gave them their own names, and he still to this day calls them by those names. Like one of them had really short hair, but he called her Rapunzel. We're just gonna go with it. Really, he did.
That's so awesome. And I think just the fact that I could reach out to so many families to write the book, and that they were like, absolutely, I'll tell you my story. But they won't tell that story necessarily to someone else.
Because they trust. And trust is such a big thing in belonging. Because you have to trust that the people around you aren't going to hurt you. And sometimes that's really hard when you've been hurt a lot of times.
Yeah, definitely.
To be willing to trust.
So is that why you had your fingers crossed? Because you said, no, what did you have your fingers crossed about?
Oh, I was going to, in all transparency, I was going to tell you my coping mechanism, though, with dealing with people moving in and out. And I had a friend that was very good. She called me on it. It was my sophomore year that she called me on it, because she watched me do it my freshman year.
Okay, so what is it?
With a really good friend. As they got closer to PCSing, as they got closer to leaving, I withdrew from them.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know I was doing it. But she called me. She goes, so are you gonna draw away from me when it's time for me to leave? Because if we are, we're gonna end our friendship now, because it's not worth it to me to just be your friend while I'm here. I want to be your friend for life.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, I watched you do it with so-and-so. And you literally, as she got closer to graduating and leaving, you didn't even talk to her anymore. Because I had put a shell up, and because that was the only way I knew how to get through it.
Right.
But it wasn't healthy. It wasn't healthy for for me or for the person with whom I was a friend. And since then, I've reached back out to that person and we still are in touch. But I was in the wedding of the other person, and we don't talk all the time, but I know that we could, if we got together, we could pick back up right where we were, because she was willing to be that open and honest.
Yeah.
And know that I truly really wanted the best, but I didn't realize it. So
Yeah.
that was why I had crossed my fingers. I wanted to.
Yeah. And I think that's a coping mechanism that a lot of people use, and they don't realize that they do it either. Because it is a way to protect yourself a little bit, and just like, okay, I'm going to shut it off right now. And then I don't have to feel it as much.
Right. I'm either all in or all out. So I realized you really can't, there's times where you don't have to do that.
Right.
You don't have to turn it on and off.
Yeah. Yeah. And as uncomfortable and as sad as, certain things are, we need to let ourselves go through those. It's not healthy for us to bottle that up or lock it up or not deal with it. It is very important for our health, not just our mental health, but for our physical health. I mean, there are lots and lots of studies, and I found myself physically ill because there were a lot of things that I didn't deal with. And I just like, nope, I'm going to be happy. Everything's fine. Everything's wonderful. And that turned out very poorly for my health, mental and physical. So yeah, that's a good point, Marcia, is that professional development and focusing on connections between teachers and students is absolutely needed. I actually and she didn't know this, so she didn't set me up for this, but I actually just did a training where I talk about behavior strategies, and it was available to a couple of thousand teachers for free. And I just got feedback from it earlier today. And, like I said, it was available to that many people, and I got 6 or 7 comments, which I am thrilled to have the 6 or 7 comments about, oh, I never thought about it like this, or, oh, that was such a good point. And yeah, like teaching people, well, this is the rule and this is why we have this rule. Because one of the things that I teach is blind obedience to authority is bad, because that's how you get people who don't question authority. So if an authority figure says, do this is for your own good, they're just going to assume, well, of course it is, because that authority figure said I'm supposed to, and I've been taught to trust them, so they must be doing what's right for me and by me. But that isn't always the case. And not just, overall umbrella, but I mean, that can lead to abuse, and it can lead to, people being in all kinds of situations. And so letting them understand that they have a right to disagree, but also understanding, well, this is the reason why we have this rule, like you can't talk when I'm talking, because if you're talking when I'm talking, then people aren't being able to hear what I have to say. It's not just, and it's the reason they need to hear what I have to say is because I'm teaching them something. It's not just because I want my voice to be heard, And, so it just the whole thing of that communication, there's behaviors are communication. So what is the behavior telling you? Why are they behaving a certain way? What?
Behaviors of communication. And I have, in my own home right now, I have had to literally look at the behaviors and go, okay, what is truly being communicated? Because what was being communicated was not lining up with the behavior. And I was expected to read the mind of that individual. It was like, okay, what would Shelley say? Behaviors of communication. And I'm sitting there going, what is the communication? And I had to separate myself from it to to get it. So I apologize. I know that wasn't where you're going with that, but I was just like,
No, it is.
this is so real life right now. And yeah.
It's not just communication between a student and a teacher. It's communication between a friend and a friend, or a parent and a child, or a spouse and a spouse, or a coworker and an employer and an employee. Every behavior on the planet is communicating something, whether it's human behavior or animal behavior.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, it really is. And whether, could be, like for young children, they can't, especially young children, they can't express, they may not even understand that their body and their brain are reacting to changes in their home or in their environment, or even within themselves. If they're hungry, you think about an infant, nobody gets mad at, well, I shouldn't say that. There are people who do, because they just don't have the patience. But if a baby is crying, are you hungry? Are you tired? Are you hurt? We go through all this whole litany of questions, but then as the infant becomes a toddler and then gets some speech abilities, they still don't have the capacity in their brain to tell you, hey, I'm hungry. But their body, they'll start having a temper tantrum, or they'll, start crying, or they'll get really whiny, or whatever. And it's all they needed was food.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't necessarily go through the, are you tired? Are you hungry? Are you hurt? Are you sick? Are you, and just being able to figure that out and identify
Right.
that. And that's that relationship, is I care enough about you to
Mm-hmm.
know that you're trying to tell me something, even if you don't know what you're trying to tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I had students who, in context, I could understand them a lot of times, but technically they would be considered paraverbal or nonverbal, because if you didn't always know the context, you didn't always understand what they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I had great communication with a lot of my students' parents, because I wanted to know what happened in the morning or what happened the night before. Because if my student was acting differently than typical for that child, then I knew, well, something is going on.
Right.
And so, at a certain point, and I don't remember how old the students were, I started sending, it was like a homework assignment. And it was, tell me what you had for dinner. Tell me what you did after dinner. Tell me what, you did in the evening, right after school. And then tell me how your morning went. And it was that the parents were supposed to help them fill that out, so that that whole thing taught so many different lessons of, communicating and expressing, and, then being able to, for me to determine, well, if something happened at home and my student is acting really obstinate, I'm thinking of one in particular, that she would just completely shut down, and she wouldn't do any work, and she would get very, very obstinate. And then if I could just get her to talk about a situation, if she could, and then I could finally get it out of her many times, not every time, that, oh, I didn't get to pick out the clothing that I wanted to wear today. And so it's 3 hours later, but I'm now processing it and I'm upset about it.
Right. So, okay. So what occurred the other day, huge screaming match. And I'm like, and one of the things that was said was, you're not listening to me. And I said, yes, I am. And I repeated word for word what the person had said.
Mm-hmm.
And then I rolled into my room before I said anything else, because I was like, nothing else coming out of me right now is not going to be nice. So I rolled into my room. I put myself in timeout to try to just find a peace. And as I'm sitting there and I'm replaying those words, you're not listening to me. And I realized I wasn't listening to what was behind the words, and what the body was saying, and what the behaviors were saying. And so once I knew that I was under control and I was not going to lash out just because I was being lashed at, I went back in there and I apologized and I said, you were correct. I was not listening to all of you.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I was listening to your words. I said, so I'm listening now, and I'm not going to say anything. Would you talk to me? And and it wasn't a pride thing. It was a matter of me coming to understanding that this child of mine has always expected me to read her brain.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter that she's an adult, she still has that expectation because that's how she communicates most
Right.
of her needs, because she doesn't put them into words.
Right.
And it's up to me to help her get them into words. And sometimes I forget. Sometimes my needs and my wants don't allow me to process it the way I can at other times. So I'm not saying, because I'm not perfect. So I was just like, but I've learned I have to go in and admit that I was wrong, to allow her to know that I do care and that I am there and I do want the best for her. So, I did, and she still didn't use her words, but she said something else, but then I said, so what I'm hearing is, and then I said what I thought she was truly meaning. And she goes, yeah, that. But if I hadn't taken the time to listen to her
Yeah.
behaviors, then I would have missed it. And so like when we're done now, I know I still have to resolve a bunch of things. And so it's like, okay, we're going to go back and try this one again. And I'm hoping, because I don't like living in tension and stress. So,
Yeah. No,
and,
that's not
and,
comfortable.
and I know that she's communicating something to me, and I want to know what it is so that I can help both of us move forward instead of spin in circles. So, but I want to also tie it into my son. One evening, it was really, really late. It was like sleep time, when people sleep, not me, but when normal people sleep. Ah,
Yeah.
Anyway, and he normally doesn't call me at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And he was mad and he was lashing out. And then the staff got on and they were agitated. And as his mom, the mama bear came out in me. And so I was trying to, but that wasn't truly what needed to be done either. So I said, okay, just stop a second. Hold on. I hear what you're saying. And I repeated it. I said, what you have right now, yes, you have a grown man physically in front of you. But do you remember he likes Caillou and Barney and Veggie Tales? So you have a cranky toddler, because it's supposed to be bedtime right now. So treat him like a cranky toddler. And I think you're going to do a lot better right now. Take a
Mm-hmm.
breather for yourself. Treat him like that. I'm not saying that you have to agree with it, but I'm asking you to give it a try, is what I told the staff. I said, because he needs you to accept him where he is right now, and not to expect him to be an adult, because he's not.
Right.
He's a cranky toddler. And the only way you're going to be able to get him to go to sleep right now is to do what you do with your cranky toddler. And I spoke with her probably another church day to church day later. And I said, did it work? And she goes, yeah, it did. I never would have thought about it. I'm like, well, that's because I have a lifetime experience with him of doing that.
Right.
And I see him as the cranky toddler in that moment, not as the physical body of an adult man.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so many times I think that's what, as you're talking about, the behaviors are communication. So
Nope.
often we're looking at the physical appearance of somebody, or we're looking at the situation and not looking at the person, the
Yep.
inside.
Yep. Yeah. We had an experience in it. What you just said, it's, how people perceive the situation. I mean, communication is body language, it's words, it's tone of voice. In fact, I think the statistic is something like most of communication is through words, but there's there's like, I don't know, 15% or something that's communicated in tone of voice and in body language. And so we have to make sure that all three of those parts of communication are lining up. And then we have a better chance of what we're attempting to say actually being heard.
Mm-hmm.
But when we went on this vacation, so before the Master IEP Coach weekend, Kevin and I were on a vacation, and he had arranged the lodging. And he arranged for us to stay at an Airbnb, and he didn't really tell me much about it. And in fact, I just posted a blog with this whole story. And basically it was that the description of the location was 2 blocks from the lake, or 2 blocks from Lake Michigan. It may have specifically stated the lake. But he was thinking relaxation. He was thinking beach. And so in his head, when he pictured the words 2 blocks from Lake Michigan, he didn't just picture water, he pictured a beach. And so when he told me about it, we were 2 blocks from the beach when we were going to stay at this place. And that in reality wasn't the situation. But it was his perspective of, this is what I want, or this is my experience of when I think of a lake, I think of a beach. Mm-hmm. So being able to know that kind of information too, mm-hmm. has, and I mean, he has a fantastic reading comprehension ability. It isn't that he can't understand what he's reading. So just that, when you're at an IEP meeting or when you're talking with somebody, the blog is about what to do when you're at an IEP meeting and how that connects. But when you're talking to somebody, oftentimes your own bias, your own experiences, your own perspective,
your life experiences
are going to change what you're hearing compared to what the person speaking intends, because the person speaking knows, well, this is the picture I have in my head of what I'm saying. So I have such a difficult time sometimes, because I'll explain something and then I'll go, does that make sense? Because I know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to describe the picture in my head, but it doesn't always come out that way. So, that's another thing. And that does really tie into belonging, because if you're not understanding and you're not hearing and listening to what other people around you are saying and doing, you may inadvertently make them feel that they're not accepted.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I've taken to, especially when I'm speaking with someone individually, this is what I heard you say. And then I try to tell them back what I heard. Am I getting it right, or what am I missing? Is what I try to say, because I really want to know what you're saying, and I want to understand it, is what I try to tell them, because right. I don't want to understand it from my experiences and my life perceptions, but I want to hear and know what they're telling me from them.
Right.
So, and it also makes sure that they know that I was listening.
Yeah. Yeah, that you were actively listening. And that is so hard to do.
It is, especially with my cat right now in front of me. I'm like, he's like doing all this while you and I are talking. I'm like, okay, I'm listening to Shelley. Emmy, don't bite my hand,
Right. And we are such a society today where everybody is multitasking, even when we don't want to. There's always sounds or people or animals or other things on our mind that, that what you just said made my brain think of such and such. And no, wait, I got to come back and I got to focus. And so it is. I mean, you really have to actively listen, which is you really are aware of where your brain is compared to the person that's talking to you. Are you really listening? Or we also have to be careful that we're not, especially in a heated situation, figuring out what we're going to say in response.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be very, very careful about that too, because if if all we're doing is determining how we're going to respond, then we're still not really actively listening.
Right. Well, that's like, okay, so I crossed my finger when I said I wanted to remember something. And then that way I could focus on that which you were speaking instead of going, okay, I got to remember to say this. I want to remember to say this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it is difficult. Exactly what you said, to say, this is what I'm hearing you say, especially when it's a heated situation. And that's something that when Kevin and I got married, when we were still engaged, we had to go through some, what do they call it? Marriage encounter, which in the Catholic faith, it's actually called something different, but we were able to do this marriage encounter weekend instead of whatever this other thing was called that I don't know if they still do that in the Catholic Church or not, but, and it was talking about like how to argue, because when you live with someone, inevitably you're going to argue at some point over something. Thank you, Michael, pre-Cana. That's what I was thinking it was called, but I wasn't certain. And yeah, so I mean, they taught us, how to actively listen, how to not listen in order to build your response, to just really listen to what the person has to say and make the person feel like they belong and that their feelings are valid and that you're trying to understand their perspective and their point of view. It's time to go.
Really?
Yeah. We just have like C minutes left. So, I mean, we don't have to like instantly go, but we're getting really close.
So I don't, this has been such a powerful time you and I've had today. And it's probably stirred up all kinds of things inside of people emotionally. But my desire in my heart is that everyone knows that you're not alone and that you do belong. And if you don't feel like you have a belonging somewhere, find it. Don't sit back and go, well, no one wants me around. You might have to actively step out and find it. Yeah. And find someone with a common interest, someone that wants to do the same craft as you, someone that might want to walk around town at the same time as you. Be willing to step out of your comfort zone, because maybe there's someone else that doesn't feel like they belong and they're just waiting for someone to reach out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, and as Shelley and I always share, we're always here. Never feel like there's nothing left. We'll point you in the right direction. We're not, because we don't want anyone to ever feel alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I have the feeling with you that I had with that whole group of people. And it was overwhelming because it was a whole group of people. I have individuals that I feel loved, that overwhelming love.
When you get that posse of...
Right. But when you get a whole bunch of people that you just are, I mean, they just lift you up. And like I said, this was the first time most of us were meeting everybody else. And to just have that instant connection,
right,
and that instant bond and support. And yeah, it was absolutely amazing. So Marcia and any of my other Master IEP coaches that were with us in Milwaukee last weekend, I miss you guys. And you're an amazing group. And we've all talked about that. And to everyone that's joined us today, Michael and Alex, and I think I've already called on Marcia, so I think I've caught everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
for those
Alex,
who watched and didn't comment, we love you too. And if you ever feel like you're comfortable enough and you want to comment, please do. We're here for you. So I do believe we are here next time. I think Fran
I'm going to be in a different location.
Oh, that's what it was. That's what it was. Okay. All right. So everybody have a great week, and we will see you next time.